Earth's savage revenge leaves the Galactic Council speechless. Part 1. The Galactic Council had known about Earth for centuries. They watched the small blue planet from afar, noting how the humans fought their small wars and slowly developed their simple technology. The Council, made up of the oldest and most advanced species in the galaxy, had strict rules about contacting primitive worlds. Earth was classified as pre-contact, too undeveloped to join the wider galactic community. Most council members forgot about Earth most of the time. The humans could barely reach their own moon. They were no threat and offered nothing of value to advanced civilizations. That changed when Admiral Zorgan of the Draconid Imperium discovered something unusual in Earth's geological scans. The planet contained rare minerals that were becoming harder to find elsewhere in the galaxy. Zorgan did not care about council rules. The Draconids were powerful members of the council but often pushed boundaries when it suited them. "This primitive world will make an excellent addition to our mining operations," Zorgan told his commanders. His scaled face showed no emotion as he gave the order, "Prepare the invasion fleet." John Martinez was having an ordinary day on his Montana ranch. At 42, the former Marine had built a peaceful life far from his military past. He woke before dawn, ate a simple breakfast, and headed out to tend to his horses. The morning sky was clear and blue. By noon, that sky darkened with massive shadows. John first thought they were strange storm clouds, but clouds didn't move in perfect formation. They didn't hum with energy that made the air vibrate. And clouds certainly didn't open up to release smaller craft that descended toward major cities. "What the hell?" John whispered, his hand shading his eyes as he watched alien ships position themselves above nearby Great Falls. A bright flash lit up the horizon, followed by a sound that reached him seconds later. A deep boom that shook the ground beneath his boots. Hundreds of miles away, Lisa Franklin was working late in her lab at Berkeley. The 35-year-old physicist had been studying theoretical space travel methods when her computer screen flickered. Then the building shook. She rushed to the window and saw San Francisco in chaos. Strange aircraft fired energy weapons at buildings, bridges, and communication towers. Lisa grabbed her research tablet and backup drives. Years of habit made her secure her data even when facing the unknown. She barely made it to her car when a blinding light erupted from downtown. The shockwave flipped her car and knocked her unconscious. When she woke up, Lisa was no longer on Earth. She found herself in a sterile room with curved walls made of a material she'd never seen before. Her head throbbed where it had hit the car window, but she forced herself to focus, to memorize everything she saw. The door had no handle. The light came from the walls themselves. And through a small viewing panel, she could see Earth growing, smaller in the distance. The first 12 hours of the invasion demolished Earth's defensive capabilities. Human military forces launched everything they had against the alien ships, but their most powerful weapons barely scratched the invaders' hulls. Nuclear missiles were somehow disabled mid-flight. Fighter jets were swatted from the sky like insects. The President of the United States had only managed to broadcast one emergency message before the White House was destroyed. "Citizens of America, we are under attack by unknown forces. This is not a drill. Seek shelter. Protect your families. We do not yet know what these beings want, but we will resist with every resource at our disposal. God bless America, and God bless Earth." Similar scenes played out across the globe. Moscow, Beijing, London, Tokyo. All major cities were targeted first, then military bases, then communication centers. By nightfall, half of Earth's population was either dead or in hiding, and no one was coordinating a global response. In space, the Galactic Council received the first reports of the Draconid invasion. The Aelonian representatives, ancient beings, who had achieved space travel when humans were still learning to make fire, called an emergency meeting. "The Draconid Imperium has violated Protocol 372B by attacking a pre-contact civilization," the head counselor stated. His elongated blue face showed the closest thing his species had to concern. "We must determine our response." The Kellian representative, a fur-covered being with 4 arms, spoke next. The Draconids claim they are simply harvesting resources from a primitive world. They cite the non-interference exception for resource collection. That exception has never been applied to an inhabited world, argued another council member. The debate continued for hours. Some council members urged immediate intervention. Others suggested the humans would quickly surrender, minimizing casualties and making the situation a minor diplomatic incident rather than a crisis. In the end, the council voted to send observers but not to intervene. Earth was, after all, just one small planet among millions in the galaxy. On the third day of the invasion, John Martinez watched from the hills as Draconid ground forces entered Great Falls. The alien soldiers stood over 7 feet tall, with reptilian features and armor that seemed to move like a second skin. They rounded up humans and sorted them into groups. The old and sick were killed immediately. The strong were taken away in transport ships. John had gathered a small group of neighbors at his ranch, 23 people now hid in his barn and house. They had weapons, hunting rifles mostly, but John knew they would be useless against the alien armor. "We need to be smart about this," he told the frightened group. "I've fought guerrilla wars. We can't match their strength, but we can outlast them if we're careful." Miles beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a research facility built to withstand nuclear blasts, scientists and military personnel from several nations had managed to establish contact with each other. They pieced together what little they knew about the invaders. "They're called Draconids," explained a Japanese scientist who had accessed alien data before escaping Tokyo. "They're part of something called the Galactic Council, but they seem to be acting alone in this invasion." Meanwhile, Lisa Franklin learned more about her captors every day. The Draconids had gathered human scientists to help them understand certain anomalies in Earth's composition. The aliens were frustrated by minerals that behaved differently than expected when extracted. Lisa pretended to know less than she did. She played the role of a frightened, cooperative human, but her mind recorded everything: the ship's layout, the function of various technologies, the hierarchy among the crew. Most importantly, she began to understand their language and their propulsion systems. The Draconids never suspected that a human could comprehend their advanced technology so quickly. After all, humans had only discovered electricity a few centuries ago. What the aliens failed to understand was the remarkable human capacity to adapt, to learn, and to seek revenge when threatened. As the first month of occupation ended, small acts of resistance began across the planet. The invaders were powerful, but they were also few in number compared to the billions of humans they sought to control. They couldn't be everywhere at once. And in the darkness of conquered Earth, humanity began to plan its savage revenge. Earth's savage revenge leaves the Galactic Council. Speechless. Part 2. 6 months passed since the Draconid invasion. Earth was changed forever. Major cities lay in ruins. Millions of people were dead. Millions more worked in mines and factories, under alien control. The Draconids had established processing centers across the planet to extract the rare minerals they coveted. Yet the human spirit remained unbroken. John Martinez now led 200 survivors in the mountains of Montana. They lived in caves and makeshift shelters hidden from Draconid scanners. At first, they focused only on staying alive. They hunted, gathered wild plants, and avoided detection. But as weeks turned to months, John knew they needed to do more. "We can't just hide forever," he told his people one night around a small, shielded fire. "Every day they take more from our planet. Every day more humans die or become slaves. We need to fight back." An older man named Pete shook his head. "Fight with what? Our hunting rifles? They have spaceships and energy weapons." John smiled for the first time in weeks. "They also have patterns, routines, weaknesses. I've been watching them. Their supply trucks follow the same route every 3 days. Their communication towers are lightly guarded at night. They think we're beaten, which makes them careless." Across the country in the ruins of Boston, Susan Rodriguez had gathered her own group of survivors. Before the invasion, Susan taught high school chemistry. Now she used that knowledge for a different kind of education. "This mixture needs to be handled carefully," she told the small group watching her. When it touches the air, it creates an acid that can eat through draconid armor. A young man raised his hand. How did you figure that out? Susan pointed to a damaged piece of alien armor they had recovered. Their technology is advanced, but it's still bound by chemistry. Their armor uses a compound that reacts to our atmosphere. They added a protective layer to prevent this reaction. I just found a way to strip that protection. The resistance grew stronger each day. Small camps of humans connected with each other, sharing knowledge and resources, but communication remained their biggest challenge. The draconids controlled all satellite networks and monitored radio frequencies. This problem was solved by Patrick Summers, a former software engineer from Seattle. Patrick had escaped the initial attack by pure luck. He had been hiking deep in the Olympic National Forest when the invasion began. When he emerged weeks later, he found a changed world. Patrick eventually joined a resistance group in what remained of Portland. There he began working with salvaged alien technology. The draconids disposed of damaged equipment in large scrap yards, considering it useless. They never imagined humans could understand or repurpose their technology. Their communication systems use a frequency range our radios can't detect, Patrick explained to his fellow survivors. But I've modified these old cell phones with components from their scrap. They can now send encrypted messages on draconid frequencies without being noticed. With these modified devices, resistance groups across North America began coordinating their efforts. Similar innovations happened in other continents. Humanity was adapting, learning, and preparing. Meanwhile, Lisa Franklin remained a prisoner on the draconid research vessel. The aliens valued her intelligence but still treated her as an inferior being. This was their critical mistake. They spoke freely around her, believing she couldn't understand their complex language or technology. Lisa proved to be an exceptional student. In 6 months, she had learned enough of the draconid language to understand most conversations. She memorized the ship's layout and security protocols. Most importantly, she began to understand how their faster-than-light drive worked. The research vessel regularly docked at a space station orbiting Jupiter. The draconids had converted one of Jupiter's moons into a processing facility for Earth's minerals. During these stops, Lisa noticed the security was more relaxed. The draconids were confident no human could operate their technology or survive in space without assistance. During one such stop, Lisa saw her opportunity. A minor system failure required the crew to leave their posts for emergency repairs. Lisa used the access codes she had memorized to enter an escape pod. Her hands moved quickly over the alien controls, activating the launch sequence just as she had seen crew members do during drills. The small pod shot away from the station before anyone noticed. Lisa had programmed it to head toward the edge of the solar system. She had overheard crew members mention a Kellian outpost near Pluto's orbit. The Kellians were described as rivals to the draconids. It was a desperate gamble, but Lisa had no choice. Her pod had limited life support, enough for perhaps 2 weeks. If she didn't find the Kellians, she would die alone in the emptiness of space. Back on Earth, the draconids continued their mining operations. They forced human prisoners to work in dangerous conditions, extracting the valuable minerals from deep beneath the surface. The aliens saw humans merely as simple labor, useful only for their physical strength in places where draconid machinery was too large or imprecise. In a mine near what was once Denver, Colorado, a group of human workers made an important discovery. While digging, they uncovered an unusual crystal formation. One worker, a former geologist named Alan Powell, recognized that these crystals reacted strangely to the draconid scanning equipment. The crystals absorb and scatter their scans. He whispered to fellow workers during their brief rest period, "If we can collect enough of these, we might be able to hide things from them." Word of this discovery spread through the resistance network. Soon, mining crews across the world were secretly collecting these special crystals. The resistance used them to shield their camps and equipment from draconid detection. In the Galactic Council chambers, the observers who had been sent to monitor the situation delivered their report. The humans continued to resist in small ways, but pose no significant threat to draconid control, stated the lead observer. They lack the technology and coordination to mount an effective response. We estimate complete pacification within 1 Earth year. The Aelonian head counselor nodded slowly. And what of the Draconid mining operations? Are they complying with minimal impact protocols? They are efficient in their extraction methods, the observer replied carefully. They use human labor where possible to reduce environmental damage from heavy machinery. What the observer didn't mention was something unusual he had noticed but couldn't quite explain. The humans weren't behaving like other conquered species. There was a coldness in their eyes, a patience in their actions that seemed unnatural for a primitive species facing extinction, almost as if they were waiting for something. As the second year of occupation approached, that something was drawing nearer. Humanity was learning, adapting, and preparing. The Draconids had brought advanced technology to Earth, never suspecting that this would be the tool of their own destruction. And somewhere in the outer reaches of the solar system, Lisa Franklin's escape pod approached a Kellian outpost, carrying with it the seeds of Earth's savage revenge. Earth's savage revenge leaves the Galactic Council. Speechless on Part 3, Lisa. Franklin's escape pod drifted through the cold darkness of space for 11 days. Her oxygen levels dropped to critical. Her food supply was almost gone. Just as she began to lose hope, a strange ship appeared on her pod's sensors. It was smaller than the Draconid vessels and shaped like a curved arrowhead. The ship captured her pod with some kind of energy beam. Lisa prepared herself for the worst. If these were Draconids, she would be executed for escaping. If they were something else, they might still kill her as an unknown alien. When the airlock opened, Lisa saw beings unlike the Draconids. They stood on 2 legs, but had 4 arms and were covered in short blue fur. Their faces had large eyes that blinked sideways. Human, one of them said in a strange accent. You are far from your planet. Lisa was shocked to hear her own language. You speak English? We learn quickly, the alien replied. We are Kellians. Your pod entered our territory. Why are you here? Lisa took a deep breath. The Draconids invaded Earth. They're killing humans and stealing our resources. I escaped from their research ship. Please, I need your help. The Kellians looked at each other. One made a series of clicking sounds that Lisa couldn't understand. Finally, the first one spoke again. The Draconids are our enemies too. Come with us. The Kellians took Lisa to their outpost on a small moon orbiting Pluto. She learned that the Kellian Republic was a minor power in the galaxy, smaller than the Draconid Imperium but advanced in many ways. They had been watching Earth's solar system because they suspected the Draconids might violate Galactic Council rules. Lisa spent weeks learning from the Kellians and teaching them about Earth. They were amazed by her ability to understand their technology. Most species take decades to grasp concepts you learn in days, said Keltor, the Kellian scientist who worked most closely with Lisa. How is this possible? Lisa shrugged. Humans are good at adapting. We have to be. Our history is full of challenges we've overcome. The Kellians were most interested in Lisa's knowledge of Draconid ships and weapons. She helped them understand weaknesses in Draconid systems that even the Kellians hadn't discovered. In return, they taught her about their own technology, which used different principles than the Draconids. We must help your people, Keltor said one day. The Draconids broke council law by attacking Earth. But the council is slow to act. They might debate for years while your people suffer. Can you take me back to Earth? Lisa asked. Keltor's ears twitched, a sign of concern. The Draconids control your system, but perhaps we can send a small scout ship. You would need to guide it to a safe landing place. Back on Earth, 2 years had passed since the invasion. The human resistance had grown stronger and more organized. John Martinez now commanded a network of fighters across North America. They had begun attacking Draconid outposts and supply lines using weapons designed by Susan Rodriguez and other scientists. Their patrol ships always follow the same route, John told his fighters as they prepared for an ambush. They think we're too primitive to be a threat. That makes them predictable. The group hid among rocks near a narrow canyon. They had planted Susan's acid bombs along the route. When the Draconid transport passed, they would trigger the explosives, disabling the vehicle and its crew. "Remember," John said quietly, "we need their communication device intact. Patrick needs it for his new network." The Draconid transport appeared right on schedule. It hovered a few feet above the ground following the canyon path. John waited until it reached the perfect spot, then pressed the detonator. The explosions weren't loud, just a series of soft pops. But the acid spread, quickly eating through the transport's lower hull. The vehicle crashed to the ground. 3 Draconid soldiers emerged, their armor smoking where the acid had touched it. John's fighters attacked with modified weapons. They aimed for the damaged areas of the armor. The battle was quick. Within minutes, the Draconids were dead, and the humans began stripping the transport of useful technology. "John, look at this," called one of his fighters, pointing to something in the transport's cargo hold. John entered the damaged vehicle and saw rows of strange crystal containers. Inside each one was a human child, suspended in some kind of liquid connected to tubes and wires. "They're alive," the fighter said in a horrified voice. "What are the Draconids doing to them?" John checked the transport's navigation system. We're taking these children to a research facility in the mountains. We need to show this to Susan and Patrick. Maybe they can figure out what's happening." In another part of the world, Kevin Wright made a discovery that would change the course of the resistance. Kevin had been a construction worker before the invasion. Now he worked in a Draconid processing facility in Australia. Kevin noticed something strange about the Draconid supervisors. Several of them had developed painful sores on their scales after working in a particular area of the facility. This area processed soil samples from different parts of Earth. One night, Kevin sneaked into the restricted area. He collected samples of the soil that seemed to affect the Draconids. He smuggled these samples to a resistance scientist named Amy Grant, who had been a microbiologist. "It's a common soil bacteria," Amy said after examining the samples. "Harmless to humans, but it seems to cause a reaction in Draconid biology. Their scales become inflamed and eventually fall off, exposing sensitive skin underneath. Can we use this?" Kevin asked. Amy nodded slowly. "If we can cultivate enough of this bacteria, we might be able to create a weapon that affects only Draconids." The discovery spread through Patrick's communication network. Resistance groups worldwide began collecting and growing the bacteria. Susan Rodriguez worked with Amy to develop delivery methods, small bombs that would release the bacteria into Draconid facilities, or sprays that could be used against individual soldiers. In space, Lisa Franklin had convinced the Kellians to do more than just send a scout ship. The Kellian Republic, always looking for ways to challenge Draconid power, decided to support Earth's resistance. "We can provide weapons and ships," Keltor told Lisa. "But we need to be careful. Direct intervention would violate Council rules just as the Draconid invasion did." "We don't need you to fight for us," Lisa replied. "Just give us the tools. Humans will do the rest." The Kellians were impressed by Lisa's confidence. They agreed to send a small fleet of ships modified to evade Draconid detection. These ships would carry weapons and technology that the human resistance could use. Lisa would return with them, bringing knowledge that could help unite Earth's scattered resistance groups. But first, she worked with Kellian engineers to modify their ships based on what she had learned about Draconid systems. "Your species surprises us," Keltor said as they prepared for the journey. "The Draconids believed humans would surrender quickly. The Council thought you would be extinct within a year, yet you fight on." Lisa smiled grimly. "That's what humans do. We don't give up, especially when someone tries to take our home." As Earth entered the 3rd year of occupation, the Galactic Council received troubling reports. Draconid mining operations were falling behind schedule. Supply ships were disappearing. Outposts were going silent. The Elonian head counselor questioned the Draconid representative. "We were told the human resistance was insignificant. Yet, your losses increase each month." The Draconid representative shifted uncomfortably. "Minor setbacks. The humans are more resourceful than expected, but they remain primitive. We will adjust our strategies. What the Draconids didn't know was that their worst nightmare was about to begin. Lisa Franklin was returning to Earth with Kellyan technology. John Martinez had united the North American resistance groups. Susan Rodriguez and Amy Grant had weaponized Earth bacteria against the invaders. And Patrick Summers had created a global communication network using the Draconids' own technology. Humanity was ready to unleash its savage revenge. Earth's savage revenge leaves the Galactic Council. Speechless. Part 4. The small fleet of Kellyan ships entered Earth's solar system undetected. They used technology Lisa Franklin had helped develop, which masked their energy signatures to appear like space debris. The Draconid patrols passed by without noticing them. Lisa stood on the bridge of the lead ship, watching as Earth grew larger on the view screen. It had been over 2 years since she had seen her home planet. Tears filled her eyes when she saw the visible scars of invasion, huge mining pits that could be seen even from space. "We're receiving a signal," said the Kellyan communications officer. "It's using the frequency you provided." Lisa rushed to the console. Patrick Summers' modified communication network was picking up their arrival. She sent a brief message using the code they had agreed upon before her capture. "This is Lisa Franklin. I've returned with friends." On Earth, Patrick received the message. At his hidden base in the Rocky Mountains, he had built a powerful receiver using parts from downed Draconid ships. When Lisa's message came through, he immediately contacted John Martinez. "She's back," Patrick said over the secure network. "And she's not alone." John was at a forward base near the ruins of Chicago. His resistance forces had grown to over 5,000 fighters spread across the continent. They had been preparing for months, gathering weapons and training for a major offensive. "Tell her to land at Location Delta," John replied. "We'll provide cover." Location Delta was a flat area in northern Canada, far from any Draconid outposts. The Resistance had set up a perimeter of sensors that would warn them of any approaching Draconid ships. They had also installed devices that created false readings on Draconid scanners. The Kellyan ships landed under cover of darkness. Lisa Franklin was the first to step onto Earth soil, wearing a suit the Kellyans had made for her. Behind her came Keltor and 20 other Kellyans, along with crates of weapons and technology. John Martinez was waiting with 50 of his best fighters. There was a moment of tension as humans and Kellyans saw each other in person for the first time. Then Lisa ran forward and hugged John tightly. "I thought I'd never see Earth again," she said. John nodded. "We thought you were dead, but we never stopped fighting." Keltor stepped forward. "We bring weapons to help your resistance. We also bring knowledge that may help you defeat the Draconids." Over the next week, the human resistance leaders gathered at Location Delta. Susan Rodriguez came from the east with samples of the bacteria weapon she and Amy Grant had perfected. Kevin Wright arrived from Australia with his team of engineers who had been studying Draconid ships. Together with the Kellyans, they formed a plan to strike at the heart of the Draconid occupation. "The Draconids have a central command ship in orbit," Lisa explained, showing a holographic map the Kellyans had created. "Admiral Zorgan directs all operations from there. If we can capture that ship, we can control their entire fleet." "How do we get to it?" John asked. "We don't have ships that can reach orbit." Keltor pointed to smaller bases around the map. "These are their launch facilities. They use transport ships to move between the command ship and the surface. We can capture one." Susan held up a small container of clear liquid. "My team has developed an airborne version of the bacteria. It affects only Draconids. Their respiratory systems shut down within minutes of exposure." Kevin Wright added, "And we've figured out how to disable their armor. The control systems have a flaw. A specific electrical pulse can freeze the entire suit." Patrick Summers had the most surprising contribution. "I've been working on their computer systems. Their network is connected throughout their fleet. If we can access the main system on the command ship, I can upload a virus that will spread to every Draconid vessel." The attack was planned for 3 days later. The target was a Draconid launch facility in what was once northern Mexico. Intelligence showed it was used to transport high-ranking officers to the command ship. John led a ground team of 200 fighters. They approached, under cover of night, using the special crystals from the mines to hide from Draconid scanners. Susan's team carried containers of the bacteria weapon, ready to release it once they breached the facility. The Kellians provided air support with 3 of their ships. They used weapons that disabled Draconid sensors rather than destroying targets. The goal was to capture ships intact. The attack began at midnight. The Kellian ships struck first, disabling the facility's communication array and defensive weapons. Then John's team moved in from 3 directions. The Draconid guards were caught by surprise. Their armor froze when hit by Kevin's electrical pulse weapons. Those not protected by armor fell quickly to Susan's bacteria spray. Within an hour, the facility was under human control. "Secure the transport ship," John ordered. "And find me an officer who's still alive. We need their access codes." They found a Draconid commander in the control room. The alien was struggling to breathe as the bacteria affected its lungs. Patrick approached with a translation device the Kellians had provided. "We can give you the antidote," Patrick said, though no such antidote existed. "Tell us the access codes for the command ship." The Draconid commander looked at the humans with hatred in its reptilian eyes. But facing death, it finally surrendered the codes. With the codes obtained, the next phase began. Lisa, John, Patrick, and 20 of their best fighters boarded the captured transport ship. 5 Kellians went with them, including Keltor. Susan stayed behind to coordinate ground operations. "Remember," Lisa told the team as the transport lifted off. "Once we're on the command ship, we have 30 minutes before they realize this transport wasn't scheduled to return. We need to reach the bridge by then." The transport rose through Earth's atmosphere. Below them, they could see the scars the Draconids had left on the planet, vast mining pits and the ruins of cities. Above them loomed the massive Draconid command ship, a dark shape against the stars. The transport transmitted the stolen access codes. After tense moments of waiting, they received clearance to dock. The plan was working so far. As they approached the docking bay, Lisa felt a strange mix of fear and determination. 3 years ago, she had been a physicist who had never even considered the existence of aliens. Now she was leading a mission to capture an alien warship. "For Earth," she whispered, as the transport docked with a soft thud. The team prepared their weapons, Kellian energy rifles and Susan's bacteria containers. Patrick carried a specialized device to access the ship's computer systems. John checked the ship layout one last time. "Once we step out there, everything changes," John told his team. "Whether we succeed or fail, the Draconids will know humans aren't just primitive animals to be conquered. We're fighting for our world." The docking bay doors opened. The team moved out in formation, ready to bring Earth's savage revenge to the heart of the Draconid command. On the bridge of the command ship, Admiral Zorgan received a report of an unscheduled transport arrival. He ordered a security team to investigate, assuming it was a minor scheduling error. He had no idea that the final battle for Earth had just begun. Earth's savage revenge leaves the Galactic Council. Speechless, Part 5 the human and Kellian strike team moved through the corridors of the Draconid command ship with purpose. They had studied the ship's layout from data Lisa had memorized during her captivity. Each person knew their role in the plan. Patrick Summers and 2 Kellian technicians headed for the main computer core. They carried the virus that would spread through the Draconid fleet systems. John Martinez led another team toward the weapons control center. Lisa Franklin, Keltor, and 5 others made their way to the bridge where Admiral Zorgan would be. They encountered resistance along the way. Draconid security teams responded to alarms that began blaring throughout the ship. But the humans had surprise on their side. The Draconids never expected their primitive captives to board their command ship. They certainly never expected them to wield advanced weapons and move with such discipline. When Draconid soldiers appeared around corners, Kevin's pulse weapons froze their armor. Susan's bacteria spray dealt with the rest. The strike team suffered. Casualties, 3 humans and 1 Kellian fell during the fighting, but they pushed forward. Patrick reached the computer core first. The room was filled with glowing columns of light and strange crystalline structures. 2 Draconid technicians turned in surprise as the door opened. "Cover me," Patrick told his Kellian allies as he rushed to the main console. The Kellians fired their weapons, stunning the Draconid technicians before they could raise an alarm. Patrick connected his device to the alien system. The interface the Kellians had helped him build translated the Draconid computer language. His fingers flew over the controls, uploading the virus he had spent months creating. "It's working," he said, as the screen began showing the virus spreading from system to system. "Their network is so connected that they can't stop it. The virus is already reaching other ships in orbit." In the weapons control center, John's team seized control with minimal resistance. They used Susan's bacteria to incapacitate the Draconid operators. Then they began shutting down the ship's defense systems one by one. "The weapons are offline," John reported through their secure communication link. "Their shields will be down in 3 minutes." On the bridge, Admiral Zorgan received increasingly frantic reports from around the ship. Systems were failing, security teams weren't responding, weapons were offline, and the computer network was being corrupted by an unknown virus. "This is impossible," Zorgan hissed to his bridge crew. "How could primitives do this?" The bridge doors slid open. Lisa Franklin walked in with Keltor and their team, weapons raised. The Draconid officers reached for their sidearms but stopped when they saw their admiral in Lisa's line of fire. "Hello, Admiral," Lisa said, her voice cold. "Remember me? The primitive human you kept in your lab?" Zorgan's reptilian eyes widened in recognition. "You, the scientist." Lisa nodded. "You should have paid more attention to what I was learning." Keltor stepped forward, speaking in the Draconid language. "In the name of the Kellian Republic and the people of Earth, we are taking control of this vessel." Zorgan laughed, a harsh sound like rocks sliding together. "The Galactic Council will never allow this. The Kellians have violated non-interference laws by arming primitives." "Just as you violated those same laws by invading Earth," Lisa replied. "The difference is, we have proof of your crimes. The children you experimented on, the cities you destroyed, the millions you killed." Patrick's voice came through their communication devices. "The virus is complete. I have control of all ship systems, and I've accessed their records. Everything they've done on Earth is now documented." John reported next. "Weapons control secured. We're receiving signals from the Kellian fleet. They're moving into position around Earth." Lisa kept her weapon, trained on Zorgan. "Your crew has a choice. Surrender now and face galactic justice, or resist and face Earth's justice. After what you've done to our world, I think you can guess which would be more merciful." The Draconid officers looked to their admiral. Zorgan saw the cold determination in the human eyes staring at him. He had underestimated these creatures completely. "We surrender," he said finally. Within hours, the news spread throughout the Draconid fleet in Earth orbit. Their command systems were compromised. Their admiral was captured. Strange illnesses were breaking out among their crews as Susan's bacteria spread through ventilation systems. Some Draconid captains tried to fight. Their ships were disabled by the virus Patrick had uploaded, making them easy targets for the Kellian vessels that had emerged from hiding. Others fled, jumping to faster-than-light speed to escape back to Draconid space. On Earth, resistance groups launched coordinated attacks on Draconid ground forces. Without direction from their command ship and with their technology failing, the aliens found themselves surrounded by humans who had learned to fight with savage efficiency. 1 week later, the last Draconid stronghold on Earth surrendered. After 3 years of occupation, Earth was free. But Lisa Franklin, John Martinez, and their allies weren't finished. They had captured not just a ship, but evidence of Draconid crimes. It was time to take their case to the Galactic Council itself. The Kellians provided a ship large enough for a delegation from Earth. Lisa, John, Patrick, Susan, and Kevin represented humanity. Keltor and several high-ranking Kellians accompanied them along with the captured Admiral Zorgan. The Galactic Council headquarters orbited a distant star in neutral space. The massive station housed representatives from hundreds of spacefaring species. None had ever seen humans before. When the Earth delegation entered the council chamber, Murmurs spread through the gathered aliens. The Elonian head counselor called for order. This council recognizes the representatives of the Kellian Republic, the Elonian said, but we do not recognize these other beings. Keltor stepped forward. These are humans from the planet Earth, which was illegally invaded by the Draconid Imperium 3 of their years ago. They come to present evidence of Draconid war crimes and to claim their rightful place among spacefaring species. The Draconid Council representative rose in protest. These creatures are primitives. They had barely achieved rudimentary space travel. They have no place in this council. Lisa Franklin stepped forward, her voice steady. We were judged primitive because we had only reached our moon. But in 3 years, we defeated one of the most powerful forces in your galaxy. We captured their command ship. We created weapons that could target Draconids specifically. We developed countermeasures to their technology. She gestured to Patrick, who activated a holographic display showing the evidence they had gathered. Draconid experiments on human children, destruction of cities, mass killings. You left us to die, Lisa continued. The council knew of the invasion but chose to do nothing. You considered us expendable. John Martinez spoke next. We don't come asking for your help now. We come to inform you that Earth is claiming its place in the galaxy. We have Draconid ships, we have Kellian allies, and we have proven that humanity is not to be underestimated. Susan Rodriguez added, we also come with offerings. The bacteria we developed can be modified to treat diseases throughout the galaxy. Our scientists have already begun working with Kellian doctors on applications, Kevin Wright finished, and our engineers have improved upon both Draconid and Kellian technology in ways neither had considered. We offer these innovations in exchange for recognition. The council chamber was silent. The Elonian head counselor looked from the humans to the captured Admiral Zorgan and back again. Never in the council's history had a supposedly primitive species accomplished what these humans had done. The council will consider your evidence and your requests, the Elonian said finally. But I must ask, what do you seek as justice for? The Draconid crimes? Lisa looked at Zorgan, then back to the council. We want reparations to rebuild our world. We want the Draconids to face your justice system. And we want a seat on this council to ensure no other primitive world suffers. As Earth did, the human terms were non-negotiable, the evidence was undeniable, and the Galactic Council, for the first time in 1,000 years, found itself speechless in the face of humanity's savage revenge and remarkable rise. Earth had not just survived, it had emerged as a new power in the galaxy. A power that other species would think twice about underestimating again.